without prejudice, well-articulated reportage, in-depth news analysis, newspaper.
All right, here we are on the first discussion segment of Daybreak Nigeria, and we'll be, speaking with an author, a creative writer, and data integration specialist based in Illinois, United States of America, Mr. Leke Adefioye. Mr. Adefioye, thank you for joining us on Daybreak Nigeria this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now the ongoing ASUU strike. What does it mean to you? What's your reaction to the prolonged strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU?
I think this issue has been ongoing for a long time, and then the Nigerian students and Nigerians in general have known this issue for too long. This has been a back and forth situation forever in Nigeria, and the new set of issues, I believe, emanated again in 2019, I believe it was, and the current one that we are battling with has been ongoing in the last 6 months. There isn't any responsible government anywhere in the world that would continue to toil with its education system. The demands of the ASUU are very clear, and they have put their demands on the table. If there has been conflicting stories about federal government through the Ministry of Education claiming that they have met their own side of the deal, but ASUU keeps telling us, or telling Nigerians, that that's a lie. That federal government side of the deal has not been met. So it's time now for the leadership of ASUU to actually attack the specifics and let the Nigerians, the taxpayers, know exactly what is going on. I believe part of the demand is that there is bad quality of education in Nigeria, which is very glaring to everybody. And then, there was a specific demand that the university transparency and accountability solution should replace the integrated payroll and personnel information system. The ASUU claims that this system negates the independence of the education system. So if this actually negates anything on the ASUU part, I believe a responsible government should look into it and probably meet at the middle and get this problem resolved once and for all. This has lingered for so long.
Okay, now this current problem, as per the demands of ASUU, the agreement that is in contention, was signed in 2009 by probably the previous government, about 2 governments ago, and yes, and it keeps, the government, successive government, keeps pushing it, and with the ongoing situation with ASUU and government, don't you think the government, because the government of President Buhari has a few months to go, don't you think it's a burden that it is clandestinely, pushing to the next government?
Yeah, that is the reason why I said this problem has lingered for so long, and as long as the back and forth situation continues, successive governments will have to deal with the issue. So it doesn't really matter to me if the current government is outgoing or not. But what is important is the lives that are affected here, the stakeholders that are affected, the students, and the quality of education that is affected. So it still goes back to government being responsible. So a responsible government should be responsive to the yearnings of ASUU and the yearnings of the students, and pay closer attention to the issues that contend with the quality of education in Nigeria, and specifically we're talking about tertiary education here. So it doesn't matter if the government is outgoing or government has just been newly inaugurated. What is important is for a government to be responsible, and a responsible government attacks, issue headlong and profile a lasting solution to that issue, irrespective of the fact that it is outgoing or newly inaugurated.
Okay, now you live in the U.S., and what do you think makes the educational system there runs seamlessly? We've not really heard of university lecturers going on strike in the U.S., except in Africa and Nigeria, especially where we have it periodically. What makes the system there run seamlessly? Talking about funding education.
I believe in terms of funding, the federal government provide about 40% of funding to public universities. And I believe further fundings are made available from budget appropriation in every fiscal year. But one of the things that I discovered about the education system in the United States is that let's start with the tertiary education trust fund in Nigeria. So this trust fund is supposed to be administering all the funding on behalf of the federal government and on behalf of the Ministry of Education. So there has been stories and stories about let's deal with the problem that we have in our hands at the moment, and that's the fact that the tertiary education fund claimed that ASUU and itself agreed to provide funding to the tune of 1.2 trillion, and the tertiary education fund claims that they have provided about 2.5 trillion so far, and that is way above the agreed 1.2 trillion. So if these funds are released and expended as expected, there should be a system that monitors the impact made by these so-called funds that are released. Are they released towards developmental programs or research and development or studies that actually, at the end of the day, had value to education in general? So the leadership of ASUU should be able to tell us if these funds were actually released and disbursed as claimed by the Education Trust Fund. So these are the things that make system works. So coming to the United States, above making these funds, over and above making these funds available, there are systems that ensure that the level of illiteracy is reduced. And personally, I hate to, make a comparison between societies, because I know every society has a peculiar style or a peculiar system. And when a society has a peculiar system, there should be a peculiar solution profiled to solve that peculiar problem. in the United States, for instance, loans are made available to people who are willing to go to tertiary institutions for tertiary education. So the loans, you are automatically, qualified for the loans when you apply for them. So there are no stringent rules attached to these loans. The only thing you need to do is apply for it, and you don't have to be a citizen to tap into these student loans. As long as you are legal, as long as you are a legal permanent resident, you are considered for the loan, and as long as you apply for it, it is automatic, and you're gonna be considered for the loan. So these are the things that government, responsible government do to reduce the level of illiteracy in the society.
Yes,
and we have not seen anything in that line in Nigeria, like maybe government providing loans or grants for students who are willing to go to a tertiary institution, despite the fact that 100% of the funding comes from out of pocket from the students or their sponsors or their parents. We still it's still a pity that we have to deal with these incessant ASUU strike every now and then.
Okay, let's quickly talk about the students' loan that you just mentioned. Here in Nigeria, the trust is not always there when you give out loans to people. Repaying loans has always been, a difficult thing for Nigerians. Do you think it can actually work? Because in the United States, if you are given a loan, you will pay back, either you like it or not. And how do you think government can really, what measures do you think government in Nigeria can introduce, towards ensuring that if at all loans, education or students' loans are given, they are paid, back to government coffers?
That still goes back to having data. It's quite unfortunate that at this time and age and period, Nigeria still does not have a reliable data for operations. What makes the difference in the United States is there is no much difference in terms of personnel, and there's no difference in terms of personality, and there's no difference in terms of the human nature. The human nature is when you obliged loan, for instance, the human nature is to default on those loans, But there are certain things in the system that would, enforce or ensure that those loans are paid back, and that's the reliability of the system of justice, and having reliable data. For instance, when a student approaches the right parastatal for loan, there's every tendency for that student to default in the loan because there is no system that monitors what the student is doing. There's no system that monitors who the loans are released to. In the United States, for instance, the loans are not released to individual. The loans are released to the tertiary institution that provide admission for the students in question. So students are not going to, where the student comes in is when he actually applies for that loan. So when money changes hands, the student in concern is not privy to how money changes hand, So the money comes from the government coffers as managed by the appropriate parastatal that is managing that loan or administering that loan. So the money leaves government coffers and goes directly to the tertiary institution, the university that the loan applicant has applied to. So there's a form of monitor on the student performance, the student attendance in class, and if for any reason the student is not, the loans are paid or the loans are disbursed, and the student doesn't show up, he's going to, have to account for the loan that was disbursed for the purpose of him attending class and tuition being paid for. So if it doesn't show up in class, he's going to account for that money. He's going to pay that money back. There is reliable data to know exactly what the student is doing at every point in time. Is he gainfully employed? Is he earning income from any company or any firm, or is he doing some kind of a business? There's a system that monitors all of that, and through the fact that your information is collected and gathered at the time that you are applying for the loan, and so this makes administration of the loan and management of the loan easier. But in Nigeria, I mean, there isn't any reliable data, so to say, to monitor what happens to the loans, what the student does with his classes or lectures or something. So when we have reliable system in place, a reliable system of justice, reliable, because if you default, or if you lied, or you do anything that is suspicious, the justice system is going to kick in, and you're going to be called to answer some questions. So when all these things are put in place in terms of system, when the systems are institutionalized, I mean, the rate at which people default on their loans will reduce drastically.
Oh, okay, now you are a data integration specialist, and you just talked about having a reliable data, to enhance our educational system. Yes, how do you think the government can really work on the data system? Because in our health system, economy, education, even agriculture and other spheres, you need, adequate data, functional data to succeed. How do you think the Nigerian government can really work on this? Because even in the criminal justice system, talking about insecurity in Nigeria, a lot of all of these crimes are committed, and no reliable data to track criminals. So how do you think the Nigerian system our government can really work on data to a verifiable data to make the system work?
First and foremost, I think the Nigerian government is on the right track with the introduction of the NIN. I believe that's for the National Identification Number. The government can start from there and agree on consult with a data specialist on what platform do we want to manage this data. We have to talk about the collection of those data, the organization of those data collected, the presentation of those data, the interpretation of those data, the analysis of those data, the storage of those data, and the security of the data. So all this has to come under one umbrella, and each bin has to be looked into and extensively, and see how do we collect this data. Okay, we want to collect this data in form of, like I said a while ago, the NIN thing that is ongoing. Is that how we want to collect the data? Okay, how do we want to organize this data? How do we want to present the data? How do we want to interpret this
Hello?
data?
Okay, go ahead.
But we need them. And how do we want to store this? These are the things that we have to, the Nigerian government has to incorporate and decide on which platform those data will be managed. Because if all these components are not put in place, we're still going to be back to square one.
Okay, now, before we allow you go this morning, other unions in the university system, talking about ASUU, NASU, NAT, have suspended their strike, giving the government 2 months within which to implement the agreement reached. So what's your appeal to, ASUU and government so that the students can go back to the classroom?
What I would say here is that I will still talk about government being responsible and being responsive. When ASUU has been out of classroom in the last 6 months, I believe, you are telling them that no work, no pay policy applies. How do they take care of their dependents? They have so many mouths to feed, and these people have been out of work for the last 6 months, agitating for what is going to, at the end of the day, improve the quality of education in Nigeria and ensure the autonomy of the universities. So if they are coming back to classroom and you're asking them to call up this strike, at the same time you're telling them, hey, we're not going to pay you for all the months that you were on strike. These are human beings. These are people that have dependents. These are people that have mouths to feed. That is not in itself enough incentive for them to call off the strike and go back to the classroom. There's something about incentive that we want to make you call off strike. There is no enough incentive in terms of first and foremost, government should stop playing victim here, and just make provision for the demands. I mean, the only thing that is, keeping us out of classroom is, hey, pay us pay us and we go back. So you cannot tell them, hey, wait a minute, for the 6 months we are not going to pay you, but just coming to classrooms. That is not going to work. Irresponsible and irresponsive government would take the heat and make this payment available for the problem to be resolved once and for all.
Okay, Mr. Leke Adefioye, a creative writer, data integration specialist based in Illinois, United States of America. Thank you for your time on Daybreak Nigeria this morning, and we wish you well.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Daybreak Nigeria continues after this timeout. Please stay tuned.
From EKTV, in the heartbeat of the Southwest, we break your day on EKTV Daybreak Nigeria.